I think the answer to that question needs to start with compared to what. To where do they mean more to citizens of the Western Balkans than to the citizens of the European Union or some member states in the European Union? And my answer to that question would be that would be negative. Western Balkans are very often portrayed as being very much obsessed with ethnicity, with religion, and as you said, with the national identity. But the issue is that I think that there is a lot of emphasis on that, and that there is the impression of that. But when you come to actually how it's played in everyday life, for example, in Bosnia and Herzegovina, where I come from, and then compare it to some countries in the European Union, and you come to the result that actually, for example, Bosnian and Herzegovinian approach to ethnicity is much more liberal than the Belgian one or the one in South Tyrol. In South Tyrol, just as an example, at each census, every 10 years, you have to state your belonging to one of the groups, and you cannot change it until the next census. While in Bosnia, actually, there is no identification, no ID passport or ID where your ethnic belonging is stated, and the only time you're actually asked that, you don't necessarily have to answer if you don't want. So in that sense, compared to that approach, is also more liberal. Well, it doesn't have to necessarily disregard. What I think would be good for the Western Balkans is to be less present in everyday politics, but that is something we cannot aim to have it forever lost. It's just that it has also its cycles, when it's maybe less prominent in political debate and when it's more prominent in political debate. What we need in the Western Balkans is the sense of I would say, constitutional support for, let's put it like this, a support for constitutions of the countries that we have, in the sense that everyone who is a citizen of any country is respecting the law, the institutions, and the constitution. But in order for that to happen, they need to believe that the institution and the rule of law works in favor of them, or that it works in favor of those whose rights are not observed. So in that sense, in order to get there, where everyone would accept the states that we have now, six states in the Western Balkans, and would be actively involved in it, we need to also have institutions and the rule of law in place. As we have heard also today at the conference, although many of us were not born during the war or were very, very young when the war happened, we still feel the consequences of the war. And because of also the media and society and the education, we still have a feeling of us versus them, or just only us and them. So in that sense, in order to overcome and accept the differences that we have in cultural, historical, and other terms, we also need to take part in reconciliation. What I think is that for the Western Balkans is important that the young people not necessarily engage in the debate on historical facts, but that they are aware that the war, for example, ethnic cleansing, mass murders, expulsions, redrawing borders along ethnic lines, that it doesn't solve any of the political, national, economic or social issues that the society might have, and that as an instrument in itself is negative and does not lead to result. I think if we would achieve that would be an important step towards preserving peace in the future in region. Well, there is a difference of opinion, I'm sure, among young people. Some of them who are aware of the benefits of the European Union as a peace project, as a project that enables better economic situation, better regulation of everyday life, see it as something positive. But there are also a lot of those who are under the impact of different views that also within the European Union exist on the EU itself. The question is, I think, more important question is, what do we do with both the positive or negative or indifferent energy that the young people have towards the EU? And I think that with different instruments that already exist and with some of the new initiatives that could be put in place, we could use the energy of the young people in the Western Balkans to also help and support young people, but also people in the EU, to explain to them what does the EU mean. I mean, if we look at the Brexit, for example, we can see that even in the UK, elites and academics and civil society fail to explain what are the benefits and positive aspects of the EU. So to expect from the societies in Western Balkans to have a clear debate and to be persuasive on what it means is a bit maybe putting too much burden on them. But at the same time, if you look the number of or the size of support for the EU, you can see also as a source of energy and inspiration for the EU itself in explaining what the EU means. I think at the moment, Western Balkans compared to the EU 28, there's a huge gap between the Western Balkans and the EU, and in order to bridge the gap when it comes to the quality of education, when it comes to quality of media, when it comes to quality of democratic institution processes, how we develop policies, how we implement policies, when it comes to GDP, to employment, etc., there is a huge gap between our region and the EU 28. And I think in order to bridge that gap in a period of 15 or 20 years, we will need to have a lot of instruments that have already been tried and that were successful. And that is, for me, the accession policy is actually that. It's basically trying to get countries and societies to make a jump and to bridge the gap in much quicker and in much deeper way than they did. Of course, we also have to learn from the negative experiences of previous enlargements, but also be inspired by positive